Hello everyone, hope you are all good. And for today's video, I'm gonna make a rune guide. So, first of all, what are runes? Runes are things that you select on champions. I will just like pick Darius for example, and you can change runes depending on the champion that you have, on what you want to do, on sometimes the champion that you are facing when you know that you are playing against some champions, you want to have different runes, probably. So let's get into it. I will start with the keystone runes, which are the first ones. And those runes are the only runes that you can see when you are playing, when you are starting to play. When you are on the loading screen, ready to go into a game, you only see one of those runes, not the other three. So, we'll start with the top of the list, Electrocute. This is a really good rune on the laning phase, which is when every person are on their own lanes and on assassins. So it has a cooldown of 25 seconds. When you hit an enemy champion with 3 attacks or abilities in 3 seconds, so assassins are really good into that, you will see like a red lightning falling and it will deal damage. That's Electrocute. It's really good and deals a lot of damage in the early game. So when I play with Electrocute, I try to keep all my spells and go all in every 25 seconds to play and to optimize the Electrocute. Next, Harry. Harry is a really good rune for support and champions who likes to poke. What is poke? It's not dealing consistent damage. It is like time to time, just like throwing something. I would say Varus is a really good example. His first arrow, the arrow from his first ability, when you hit an enemy champion, Harry will go and deal an extra bit of damage. It also works really well with support because when you shield an ally, it also gives a bit more shield. So only have to be careful with what do you want to do with Harry. So if you're playing this rune on a support, avoid hitting an enemy with a spell and then shielding an ally because Harry will be going to attack the enemy instead of going to shield your ally. The new rune that was introduced on the game on the last patch, Phase Rush. So the same way as Electrocute, when you hit an enemy with 3 attacks or abilities, you gain a burst of movement speed, just like a quick movement speed buff for some seconds, and also slow resistance. That rune is really good for champions like, I would say, Cannon, Timo, Graves, also. Really good on Graves, because you can just like jump on lane, throw like the smoke screen, basic attack, and cancel the animation with the first ability. Then you have your phase rush really fast, and you can chase enemy champions with that. So this rune is really good, and I think when I will be playing Darius against an Asus, I think it's even better than Conqueror because of the slow resistance, and I can just like run after him and get him. So this rune is really good when you want like to deal not really consistent damage, not really poke, but just like I will give the example of Cannon, for example. So you throw your shuriken, second ability, then auto attack, and your phase rush is on. So you can run after the guy if he's low, or run away from him. If you run away, you can just like use the burst of movement speed. I'm talking about Cannon. It's a good example. To deal damage to him, then a basic attack and your shuriken, or just whatever you want, as long as it is like 3 attacks or abilities, and you can run away even faster. Conquer, I would say that this is the main rune of the game. Most of the champions play Conquer, actually, and I think it's a bit a shame because Riot, yes, they introduced new runes, they removed some that weren't play, but Conquer is still just the best rune on the game. So every time you hit an enemy champions with a basic attack and ability, you gain a small boost of attack, and it can stack up to 5 times. And if you are physical, it gives you AD, attack damage. Or if you are magical, it gives you AP, ability power. And obviously, this is a bit reduced on the ranged champions, but it's still really good. So, next rune, Fleet Footwork. This rune is really nice, actually, but there are like just some better runes in the game, that's why it isn't really played. So, this rune is good, I would say, for ADCs, because when you move, you gain stacks. It also works when you attack. And when you reach 100, you actually spend all your stacks, and you next attack that will heal you and give a bit of movement speed. So this rune is also really good on jungle. When you stack your rune, and then you attack, you can go faster through camps or faster through ganks. Next, Grasp of the Undying. This rune is really good for frontline champions, which are the ones who are supposed to take the damage, because it heals you a lot, and it also deals damage scaling on your max health. So this rune is just really good on champions like Garen, who are stupidly strong actually. I'm not gonna talk about Garen. I'm just like tired of this champion, and I'm a Baron liner, and this is just, yeah. You don't need a brain to play Garen. I will just say it like this. So basically, your attacks will heal you and deal a bit more damage. So it's also really good. I will just give the example on Garen because it's the the most common champion, I think, because it can just like, with this first ability, run on you, attack, silence you, and then spin, and you can heal, I would say, quite a lot, and just poke the enemy for a lot of damage. I would say midlife in the early games, and stay really healthy. So yeah. Next rune, Aftershock. After immobilizing an enemy champion, you gain defensive stats like armor and magic resistance, and after, I don't really know. I think it's like after 2 seconds, something like this. 2 seconds and a half. It deals like a small zone around you that deals damage. It scales on your max health. So this rune is really good for, I would say, support champions, or even maybe Malphite, even if Malphite prefers to play Grasp of the Undying. This one. Uh, so what does it do exactly? When you immobilize is crowd control an enemy. Crowd control, it's like root, CC, stunt, knock up, and things like this. So, for example, Rakan, when you dash and knock up an enemy, this will deal another burst of damage, and it will also give even more defense. The next one, this one got buffed, Font of Life. So, when the owner of this rune attacks an enemy champion, they will leave a small mark, this small shield. It's actually a green shield. And if an ally attacks that champion, it will heal. And with the new patch, this rune is actually heal. I'm not sure if it is like heal all the allies that are around him or each ally that attack. Just a little second. Yes. Yeah, so basically each ally that attack that champion will heal for a bit. Next rune, the Domination. This one is more attack based, I would say. Brutal, the most basic one. Really nothing to say about it. If you're not sure which Domination rune do you want to play, just play Brutal. Gathering Storm, it's a really good rune for late game champions that scales. Scale is how the champion evolves during the game. Patin, for example, is a champion with a bad scaling. Why? Because he's really good in the early game, but I wouldn't say really bad, but he falls off the later the game goes on. Galio, for example, is a champion that is, I would say, okay in the early game, and in the late game he gets even better. So this rune is really good for those kinds of champions. What does this rune do, by the way? It gives you attack damage every 3 minutes, or magic damage, depending on the type of champion that you are. So, Hunter Vampirism. The sets of Hunter runes, you have one per, I would say, the secondary runes, I will call them like this. And those are runes that you get more stats the more you have kills or assists. That's what Riot calls unique champion takedown. So you gain physical or magical vamp, depending on the kind of champion, the kind of damage that you deal, and you will gain more of that the more champions you kill or take assist on. Triumph, it's a really good rune for champions that are like to be in the front line or eventually assassins, but I'm not really sure. So Triumph is when you have a kill or an assist, you gain 10% of your missing health, and you deal 3% more damage to enemy champions below 35%. So I would say this rune is good if you like to be in the front line, if you will have a lot of assists. So I would say this is a really good rune for Garen, Darius, or assassins. Yes, because you kind of jump in the middle of the enemies, and if you can go there, one shot the enemy ADC, for example, you will gain health, so you can run away a bit safer, I will say, and deal a bit more damage the lower the champion is. Weakness: impairing the movement of an enemy champion makes them take 5% more damage. Don't really know which rune is the best for Darius, but I think I'm gonna start playing Weakness because impairing the movement is slow, just like slow, stunts, roots, and all that. And Darius has like his third ability, which grabs the enemy, and the second ability, the empowered auto attack, also slows the enemy, so they will take more damage. That's basically it. Nothing really much to say. The champion rune. It's a rune that I've played a lot with, and as it says, like on yellow, high risk, high reward. So you deal 8% more damage. That's it. But if you die one time, you lose 4%. If you die a second time, you lose the other 4%. So when you die two times, this rune doesn't exist anymore. Small interaction. If you buy Guardian Angel, the armor that makes you revive, you die and you come back to life, but this rune doesn't consider it as dying. So if you have zero deaths and the enemies kill you, but you have Guardian Angel, you'll revive. And if you survive, of course, you will keep all the damage. So it can be really interesting to maybe buy Guardian Angel as the first or second item. There was a time where Jin, the ADC, used to play Champion Rune and immediately buy Guardian Angel as the first item because he doesn't have a lot of mobility. That's why he also plays Fleet Footwork. And yeah, it's basically to protect the champion to deal a lot of damage. This rune, you should only play it if you really feel confident. If not, just go for Brutal if you don't know what rune you should play. Next, the Resolve runes. Those runes are more about defensive and health stats. So, first of all, Adaptive Carapace. It was a rune that was, I would say, implemented into the game, but it was already here. It's kind of weird to say they keep the same picture, but the rune does something similar to another rune that was already in the game. Anyway, so you gain 50 health. 50 health, in the beginning, it's something good, I would say. It's something like reasonably good. Um, and if you are less than half HP, you gain 12 armor or magic resistance depending on the damage that you took. So if you play versus a Gragas, you'll have magic resistance. If you play versus a Garen, you'll have armor. So this rune, I would say, is good in champions that like to close fight. really melee champions like Baron laners, or eventually on some junglers. Conditioning. This is the another scaling rune, so you gain defensive stats after 5 minutes in the game, and then every 2 minutes you gain armor and magic resistance. So the more the game goes on, the more defensive sets you have. Next one, Hunter Titan. The Hunter set again gives you bonuses the more assists and kills that you have. So you gain 20 health. Then, for each kill or assist that you have, you gain more 20 health and 4% tenacity. What is tenacity? Tenacity is to reduce the effect or the time that you spend, not really spend, that you ward succeed. So if I would say, let me think about it. Pantheon, if he stuns you for like, I would say 1 second, then if you have 3 or 4 kills, I will say 4 kills, you have 16% tenacity. So you will probably just be stunned for about 84 milliseconds, something like this. So the more tenacity you have, the less vulnerable you are to crowd control. Second wind. I am testing this rune actually, and I think it's quite strong. Every 5 seconds, you gain a little bit of health. Really, not much. The more the game goes on, the more irrelevant it is, because in the beginning, 6 health, it's okay. But the late game, when you have like 2000 HP, 6%, 6 HP, it's really nothing. And after you take damage from an enemy, you will gain a bit of health over 10 seconds. So what is this? I will say that you have to gain 20 health over the next 10 seconds. You will gain 2 health each second until 10 seconds. You'll basically gain this amount for 10 seconds. So, and this effect is doubled on melee champions. That's really good actually. So, I have to test this rune, but I think it's really good when you play against champions that can poke you a lot. I would say versus like Timo or even like Garen actually, because of his first ability. He just like runs on you, jump, silence, and you're like, okay, I cannot do anything because I'm silenced. I cannot use my abilities or anything. So I will talk about bone plating. That is a rune that you want to play instead of second wind. So before, loyalty. This rune is really good when you are playing a champion that always plays with your team. Support. So what does it do? You gain armor and magic resistance, and your closest ally gains armor and magic resistance. As simple as it gets. So you want to be close to your ADC all the time. This is really good for champions like I would say Braum, Alistar, champions that don't really want to roam. Roam it's when you go to other lanes to help. Now the last rune, one of the ones that were introduced in the last patch, bone plating. A really popular rune on League of Legends PC. And when you take damage from an enemy champion, for the next 3 attacks or abilities, and yes, it does count with the one that you received, you will gain a small shield that will reduce those 3 attacks or abilities. It has a 45-second cooldown, so be careful or play around it. So, okay, you see that the enemy plays bone plating because you can see the 3 little bone shields around the champion when you hit him. So what you want to do? You want to attack him just once, to use his bone plating, because you cannot control. So after you use his bone plating, you have 45 seconds where you can attack him without the bone plating being up. Just when you play against like a tight matchup, never go on an enemy without taking off his bone plating first. So this one is better when you want to play against champions that like to fight. Not something like Timo, Cannon, Garen eventually, but more about champions like I would say Camille, who attacks you like a lot, against Nasus, against Malphite is poke, so I would say Gragas maybe. Even if Gragas is a bit annoying because of his shield, his barrel, the first ability can just take off your bone plating for free. So, last set of runes, Inspiration. Those runes are more about, I would say, utility. So it doesn't give you attack, it doesn't give you health or anything, but it helps you in, I would say, in general, literally, because there are a lot of different, they do so many things. So I will start. Pathfinder, the first rune. I'm not really a big fan of this one, but it's really good when you play this on the jungle, for example, or when you play support that likes to roam, like go around the map a lot, because it gives you a bit of movement speed. Keep in mind that this is only out of the combat. What is out of the combat? When you are not receiving damage or casting abilities. So basically just walking. Mastermind. It actually got nerfed, and I think it was a really good nerf. Of course, it's gonna hurt, but I think it's the right thing to do because Mastermind was allowing people to gain so much experience for just taking turrets by themselves. So it makes you deal 10% more damage on epic monsters, which are drakes, dragons, um, Rift Herald, and Barons, and 10% adaptive damage. Adaptive is if you're physical, it gives you physical. If you're magical, it gives you magical. 10% adaptive damage on turrets, and then you gain 120 gold when you take or assist taking those objectives. So you don't need to be alone taking a turret to receive this gold. You don't need to take the dragon alone to receive this gold. Oops. This rune is really good to champions that like to split push, which is when all your team is on the lower part of the map, you are on top alone, just pushing turrets. Really good for this and junglers. Next, the last from the rune set, Hunter. So Hunter Genius, it gives you ability haste, which is basically reducing the cooldown of your abilities. And each time you get a kill or an assist, it gives even more ability haste. So, Sweet Tooth. So, the little green plants that gives you heal and also mana or energy depending on the champion. And I'm not sure, but I think it also gives rage for champions who play with rage. Rage, it's like kind of an energy that you have by attacking. Like Renekton and Tryndamere use rage. I'm not sure, but I think honey fruits also gives a bit of rage. So it makes the healing from those plants 25% better. So really good in the laning phase. And also with the new patch, they make this run better because if you or an ally that you are close to takes an honey fruit, you gain 20 gold. So this change was really good because of the kind of, I would say, stress that, or problems, more importantly, that caused about like the support and the ADC just being like, who should take the plant? I have Sweet Tooth, so I should take it. But you're almost full health and I have no HP. Yeah, but I need the gold. So now the Riot just decide to say, no, if you both play with Sweet Tooth, you both gonna gain gold from this. So that's really good for the laning phase if you see that you have a tight matchup or sorry, or you just want the gold to create a small gap. I will just give you a small tip. When the second wave of minions come, second like from the whole game, the game start, and I think like so I know the numbers. Give me just a second. So at 16 seconds in the game, the two first wave crash on mid, like just fight each other. Then 20 seconds, the jungle spawns. 24 or 6 seconds, the minions arrive to the middle point where like both wave find each other on the Baron and Dragon lane. So on the second wave, the first Oni fruit will spawn on your lane. Then, at 3 minutes into the game, the fruit on the river will appear. So it can be really smart to maybe push the wave, and when you see that it's like 2 minutes and 50 seconds, start walking towards the river to catch the fruit as soon as it spawns. It's really good. This is 60 free gold, and you stay healthier or mana. Next, Pick Hunter. Pick Hunter is in the same optic of the loyalty, which gives boost to allies that are close to you. It also gives boost to you, yourself. So you gain 2% movement speed and give 2% movement speed to allies that are around you. And yes, it stacks. So if you are close to your whole team, 4 other players, you gain not 2, but 8, because it's 2 times 4. And uh, your... Oh no, sorry, I think they changed this rule in the beginning of the game. When this game was released, I think you also got the movement speed, but it just gives movement speed to your allies. No, it's the total opposite. Wait. No, you gain movement speed if you are close to allies. Not your allies, sorry. So, this one is good on support, and the second ability from this helps you get ahead. So this is really good on support, and I wouldn't say ADCs because they prefer Sweet Tooth or like Hunter Genius, or eventually Mana Flow Band. I'll talk to that just in a second. So, if you help killing, like having the kill or the assist, you and those champions that help killing the enemy champion will gain 50 bonus gold. That's really good. That's not much, it's even less than the Sweet Tooth, but it helps creating a gold gap. So, Mana Flow Band. Mana Flow Band gives you mana in general. Just, it does nothing else. It doesn't give you damage, doesn't give you movement speed, gold, anything. It just helps you in general with your mana. So champions like Oriana, Hardy, that needs mana, that runs out of mana really fast, this rune is really good. And one more trick. You want to use this rune if you don't really need, like really need those other runes, and if you play with this one, Tear of the Goddess. Why? Because this has 3 evolutions, as you can see here. One magical, this one defensive, this one here, and one physical. And every one of those 3 items, this one deals more damage, same for this one, and this one gives you cooldown reduction the more mana you have. So it can be really interesting to play Mana Flow Band on those champions just because of the Tear of the Goddess. So, that was it for the guide. I hope you liked it. I hope I could help you. And if you have any tips to get better or any things that you would like me to play or to talk about, just feel free, use the comments. Give a like if you like, give a dislike if you didn't. So, thank you for watching and see you guys.